Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. It has been quite a bit of time since I recorded the video. And honestly, I've just been working, and all of my other time I've basically just been chilling and working on my album, trying to get that finished while also doing some of the other things that I need to do, for example, the label and that kind of stuff. And I've really enjoyed taking some time away from the channel, not chasing the views anymore and doing that kind of thing. But like I said in the post announcing this change, I also wanted to just do videos whenever I have something interesting to say. So that is what I'm going to do today, and that is in regards to what Eclip posted in his videos. He posted 2 videos and also did a live stream on this topic, and that is about creativity inside of the psytrance scene. And while I think they are very good videos with their arguments very well laid out, I do disagree a little bit on what he is seeing. But also we, of course, have different experiences and different ways that we got into the music industry. He's been into psytrance much longer than I have, so maybe that is the reason why that contributes to his view. So I just want to unpack my opinion on this aspect and look at some of the things that he claims and provide a little bit of a counterpoint.
So there is a huge creative crisis happening in the psytrance scene. So we reached at the point where there are certain psychedelic standards and most artists are floating safely within that zone, being careful about what they can and cannot do to stay psychedelic. This mindset created a creative lockdown. We now have more and more artists sounding almost the same. The genre today is built mostly around complex sound designs, endless modulations, and synthesis tweaks. That part is great, but it's becoming a standard. But beside that, there's almost a fear of adding something different to a track because we might be judged by the community as commercial or non-psytrance. In the last few months, I've been diving deep into this, reading about creativity, talking to people who actually built our scene, the pioneers who shaped the psytrance. And it's not just my opinion. Everyone agrees that we are facing a big problem. We are not bringing enough new artists, new energy, or new ideas. We might think this is because the top artists are holding their position with the help of the agencies, and yes, that's partly true, but it's not the full picture. The bigger problem is that many artists are afraid to step out of the box, afraid to be judged or misunderstood.
So in the first video, he essentially summarizes his point as there not really being a lot of artists out there that are willing to experiment, and that there are a lot of artists that are willing to just follow the same formula. And honestly, that is something that I personally never really experience in like any particular artist. Like if you sit them down and you ask them or you have a chat with them what their one standard formula is, what their one standard thing is that they do, there is never really going to be a concrete answer coming from an artist. It's always going to be something vague or something really over-centric about the whole project, maybe something like organization-wise or project structure-wise maybe, yeah, but nothing specific about like, oh, I have this really one style that I always want to do and I always use the same sounds or stuff like that. There's always a little play in here with experimentation, because I think most artists do need experimentation to just feel good about the process of like sitting in the studio and actually making music. Another thing is, he does mention that it's not about the artists that are already at the top kind of staying at the top, and that club kind of never really switching up, it always being the same few people that release the big tracks, that get onto the big labels, that have the big projects, that get onto the big stages, that kind of stuff. And well, to a certain extent, that is kind of true in the sense that they do always stay there. One, those artists also evolve their sound, and they are also just experimenting because they're also just artists, like just small artists in the way experiment. Big artists are going to do the same thing. Maybe there are some financial incentives to always keep doing the same thing, and maybe some artists kind of fall into that, but even in those cases you'll see that they have an extra project or an extra artist name under which they can be more experimental. And the other thing that I've personally experienced in the last, say, half year is that the small festival scene and just the small gatherings that you have is also a really big part of the psytrance community, of the psytrance scene, right? And on those festivals, you're definitely going to notice more unique sounds and more unique acts, because they're usually going to be just local people. And because there are a bunch of locals, there are going to be a few people usually in there that have some very experimental stuff going on that is really, really interesting. And honestly, having played a couple of small gatherings myself, I can definitely say that it's really nice to just get to experience that kind of experimentation in the psytrance scene, and also just talk to people like that, talk about how they produce their music and that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I like about the creativity that we have in the psytrance scene is that it is kind of like a shared experience, in that we do get to share all of the knowledge that we have with other producers. I quite literally do that with tutorials, but also when you're just chatting with your friends or chatting with fellow producers, you're essentially partaking in this one big collective thing that is the creativity of the psytrance scene as a whole.
This is now, which I see another problem, why everything sounds the same, is this technical aspect. We all use Serum, we all use Vital, we all use Virus, we all use the same things. In the past, if you wanted to make music, you needed to buy synths, like the VST instruments didn't exist. So you buy a Virus, like myself, then you buy Novation for a bass line, and then you have so much limited options in front of you.
Now, another argument that Eclipse makes is that because we all use the same tools and because we all use the same techniques, all of our sounds are going to be very much the same. And personally, I like to listen to a sound and hear in the small details the differences between sounds. Like one FM tonality might be slightly different than another FM tonality, but I understand why not everybody might be listening to a track like that. Of course, that might be a very producer kind of mindset, especially if you're a very technical producer like myself. But also, I don't think that just having the same sound means that you're not being creative. You can use a sound in a different rhythm, you can use a different background on it, you can use different kick and bass on it, you can use different percussions on it. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can combine already used sounds into new ideas. And in reality, that is kind of the essence of creativity. Like in reality, psytrance is probably always going to have that 4-on-the-4 kick drum pattern for its music because that is so baked into the nature of the genre. But you wouldn't say that everybody who has ever used a rolling bass line is uncreative because they're copying it from the very first guy that was ever doing it. Now, while streaming services aren't the best for artists pay, they are a really good method to finding new artists. And what I wanted to show you is something that I did recently, which is I went to this track because this is a track that I really like. And I went to the username here and you just get a whole bunch of different artists that sound similar. And I listened through all of these. There was a little bit of a different ordering to it when I did it. And when I went through it, I went through my playlist and added about 60 tracks to my playlist. In total, as you can see, I've been quite busy extending my playlist of songs that I like. Just kind of curating new sounds, different things that I want to listen to. Because as you can imagine, I also need reference material to listen to in order to get creative off of. I'm not just sitting there and coming up with good ideas by myself. I always need something to play off of. And I just listen to a lot of psytrance in my free time to just get as much inspiration as I can. And at the end of the day, I don't really care if people accuse me of maybe always staying the same or maybe copying off of other artists or any of that kind of stuff, because I want to make music for the people that actually enjoy my music and that just want to listen to it. Of course, I take feedback and constructive criticism, but I'm not making music for the people that just don't want to enjoy my music. I want to tie this together with a point that Tentacruel makes in the video where he analyzes the same kind of argument being made on the music industry as a whole, because I think his idea can also be applied to individual genres like psytrance.
And that's another thing. Isn't the term mainstream a little outdated? It seems to me that there are a million tiny interconnected streams, a chaotic world of small-scale artists and visionaries, and then there's one big dumb lake, where experimentation and forward-looking art doesn't happen, where being a tired cliché is considered a virtue. So, given everything I've just said, is this study seriously trying to tell us that by analysing the big dumb lake, a lake that looks nothing like it did 50 years ago, we can make sense of what's going on everywhere else? Give me a break.
So I would highly recommend, if you're a producer, don't go with that narrative that if you're using a certain bassline style, or if you're using a certain synth, or if you're making a certain type of psytrance, or if you're making a certain subgenre of psytrance, whatever it ends up being, that don't go with the narrative that just because you're doing that, you're not being creative. Of course, you can be experimental and that is a lot of fun, but you don't have to be. You can just make music for the people that want to enjoy your music. Especially towards prog or progressive psytrance, it is often said that those guys aren't really being creative. But for me, it really looks like they are trying to implement ideas from other genres into psytrance, which is one of the ways that innovation gets done, right? Is you just take something from somewhere else in music and you try to implement that into the current genre. And that doesn't mean that I now want to say that you have to like that kind of psytrance or that you have to say that that is creative or whatever. But I do think that if you're saying that psytrance is being uncreative and then you go criticize some people for implementing stuff from other genres for being too creative, that is something that doesn't really mix. So that is really all that I wanted to say on this topic, and that is kind of my opinion laid out. I do want to say a few more things on just what I'm doing in my life and what my plans are. I'm currently just working on the album, and I have all of the music finished. I have all of it mastered. That has been done for quite a while, but the visual side of things have been taking quite a long time because I also want to just have a nice visual package for the whole thing. My original estimate to get it out before the year 2026 is probably not going to work, but I hope that in the first half of 2026 I can get it out. And that of course has everything to do with the fact that I also have a job now, and that is really slowing things down as well. But it does bring a nice bit of stability into my life. So for the creative side of things, for the fact that I don't have to worry about what I'm doing with my music, and especially that I don't have to worry about getting a video out on time, is really, really nice. Now that has meant that I haven't recorded a video for the last 3 months, ever since I made that decision to just not worry about the YouTube channel anymore and not worry about the views anymore. It has been really nice seeing how much you guys still are watching the channel, and I hope that you guys will continue watching as some more videos are coming out. Of course, I still have ideas for the future and more things that I want to record, but I'm just going to take my time with it, and I'm going to first focus on actual creative stuff and actual music making for myself, for the things that I want to actually put out there as music into the world. And then secondly, I'm going to focus on tutorials and products and all of that other kind of stuff that you guys know me for. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did by leaving a like, and make sure that you're subscribed. I'm going to sign off now, and I hope to see you in the next one in a couple of months. Bye bye.